This week on Launch, take automatic transcripts and clips of your Zoom calls. An easy way to build subscription revenue into virtually any business. And is Microsoft really giving bots away for free? All that and more on this week's Launch for Accountants. Recurring revenue is the best. No fuss, no billing, just money in the bank each month. Check out Diem. They've set out to simplify the platform that drives your subscriptions. Historically, subs have been reserved for product companies, but these days there's a way to build subscriptions into virtually any business. A tool like Diem makes the technical stuff really trivial so that you can wrap a really cool package or loyalty program around your business. For me, this has been a big advising opportunity since subscription revenue is pretty underutilized by small businesses. Most of the solutions on the Diem site are centered around food service. There's loads more applications out there for virtually any type of business. Diem makes onboarding people into the program very simple, taking payments, managing your subscriptions in bulk. You can add delivery and pickup schedules, but the main idea is it's customizable enough to wrap around any business. So consider whether the clients you're working with are leaning into subscription revenue right now. Diem's got a live demo on their site that's easy to take for a spin. Could be a helpful tool to advise around. Only $250 a year. Check this one out at per-diem.co. Do your clients understand their financial reporting? Mine neither. Price built a simple financial reporting layer over the top of Xero or QuickBooks. They call it finance for founders, but I think that's non-accountant speak for finance for everybody but accountants. Here's why I like it. It's easy to understand. Most clients can fire it up and understand what they're looking at. And until they've evolved into their final form and can understand financial statements, this may work pretty well. It's the kind of thing you could build an advising framework around. Couple other power user features it has. You can layer in projections and budgeting. Ever ran a tax projection for somebody before year end and had them understand why their tax was underpaid when their revenue went through the roof? Me neither. It's a great use case for visualizing a projection. And in this case, it's gonna sync with your accounting system through the rest of the year. So it's gonna become painfully obvious when you've exceeded expectations. So take a look at Pry if financial statements aren't quite hitting home for your client. You'll find this one at pry.co. Let's talk about Zoom some more. Video conferencing is great, but it doesn't give you a written record like email does. Perfect Recall is a tool that automatically will take transcripts of your Zoom calls and even make it simple after the meeting to select snippets of text and spin a video clip out of it. So rather than relying on the notes that you took during the meeting, or even worse, your memory, you've got a searchable index of those Zoom calls. Another really compelling use case for this tool, I think, you can make notes live alongside that transcription. So if you're like me and you do a lot of client intake meetings, but aren't the one that actually does the heavy lifting, you can make notes for your team on the fly. So you explain something to your client in a simplified way they'll understand, but alongside that part of the meeting, you can make notes that will trigger actions for your team, like draft a 2553 or a power of attorney. If you're like me, especially during busy season, when you come out of those meetings, unless you write those 5 things down, you're gonna lose them. And this actually gives you an automated way to build notes alongside your transcriptions so that the handoff to your team after that meeting is seamless. So check out Perfect Recall. You get your first 15 transcriptions free. You'll find that one at perfectrecall.app. Your accounting firm needs a knowledge base. Most firms are able to skirt by without one until you get to about the size of firm that outgrows a single room. And that's generally where your processes start breaking down. It gets really hard to pull new people into a process. QA becomes complex. People start doing different things. And I know nobody likes having that one more tool for that one little part of your business. Well, Kbee is a tool to build a knowledge base smack on top of your Google Drive. So with the click of a button, it rolls up the files, the Google Docs, everything in a directory into a nice polished looking knowledge base. And what's more, it even gives you user management. So you could invite a third-party user like a client or an employee. All that data lives behind authentication. This one starts at only $19 a month. Put it on a custom domain, so it could even live on your own website. If you're living in G Suite, I think this one makes a lot of sense. Check this one out at kbee.app. Let's talk about these robots that are gonna put Kevin out of a job. Microsoft made a splash the other day when they announced that their robotic process automation tool is now free and available on every Windows 10 desktop. The tool in question is Microsoft Power Automate Desktop. And what they've done is they've added the desktop app to existing licenses for free. The tool itself, unfortunately, is not altogether free, but it's still pretty darn cheap. But what is Microsoft Power Automate, and is it something that's worth checking out? Power Automate is Microsoft's entry into the API connector space, so think like Zapier, and it's also also their robotic process automation tool. The program has had its ups and downs, but it's a safe entry point if you're living in the Office 365 ecosystem. What it does really well, integrates Office 365 apps. And if you haven't started to explore tools like Zapier or RPA tools like Electronique, this is a pretty cheap and easy place to start. Plans start at just $15 per user per month, about as cheap as it gets. And if you're using a lot of the Microsoft apps, it's probably gonna work pretty well for you. If you start to stray outside the Microsoft ecosystem into third-party apps, well, things might start to get a little weird. But that shouldn't scare you away. If you're just starting to explore this stuff, this is a great place to start and is a pretty good tool for building your very first bots. Check this one out at flow.microsoft.com. A past top launch is back. Minerva just shipped Minerva Pro, and it comes with the one feature that I really wanted in their initial release, private recipes. First, let's take a step back and look at what Minerva is. They're setting out to take the pain out of showing other people how to use software. There might not be anything worse than having to walk somebody through how to use software over the phone, telling them to click here, click there. We've seen a bunch of user guide tools pop up recently, making it easy to record the steps to do a thing, but Minerva's approach is a little bit different. They use a Chrome extension, and because they have that Chrome extension, they can highlight specific elements on the website. So when you create your recipe, you indicate the elements that you need to select, and the other user that has that same extension installed sees those items be highlighted one by one in the steps that you set up. So the recipient doesn't get a PDF or a video, it actually highlights the specific things on the screen as they walk through those steps. Now in the last release, all of your recipes were public, but now you can build a private library of your own recipes. See where this is headed? You get your client set up with the extension, and now every time they fire up QuickBooks or Gusto, you've got an icon in the bottom right that they can click, and it pulls up all of the recipes that you've recorded for that program. Things like changing your direct deposit account or resetting your password. Your client just has to click on that recipe and it'll walk the user through it step by step. What I like about this, it's not a static guide. It's dynamically updating inside the browser, highlighting the specific stuff you want the user to do. You can take this one for a spin for free. Check it out at minervaknows.com. That's all the accounting memes we've got time for this week. Did you know if you sign up for the newsletter and refer one friend, you get a fanny pack? Do you have any idea how much money I'm losing on this? Head over to launchfa.com, check that out, and we'll be back next week with 6 new launches.